Man of the hour is here. Everybody has been screaming for him. Say, where is he? Mark Frost. Mark Frost is an economist, professor, consultant, drummer, Eagle Scout, Marine, capitalist, Schumpeterian. Always love that word. And recovering libertarian. How you doing, Mark? You doing okay, man?
I'm doing really good. It's cold, at least by Georgia standards here. They closed the schools yesterday because there was a quarter. There was 1/10 of an inch of ice on the road. So it's
Look, man, it is freezing here. I went up to an event for the inauguration. A friend of mine, Caleb, was doing an event, and it is bone chilling cold. And they make you walk blocks. Like if you get off the train station, you have to walk several blocks to get out of the security zone. So traffic is screwed up. Like walking is oh man, it was bone chilling cold. There was no snow though. There was no ice. So,
right.
But that's anomalous in Georgia, right? That's not normal.
Yeah, I mean, when it's bad, like when it's truly, truly bad, it's like once every 10 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Dallas, Texas. I mean, Dallas gets a snowstorm once every 10 years or something. So
every blue moon, I feel you.
But I did my graduate work in Colorado, and it's nothing. A foot of snow, people are out driving and everything else. So yeah.
Same thing in New York. When I was in New York, I remember the first time it snowed. I think it was like 4 inches or something. And I'm laying in bed thinking, well, clearly they're gonna, have a snow day. Like clearly these places are gonna shut down. And my ex was like, we don't do that. We don't shut down. Like it just doesn't work that way. You're taking your ass to work. I was like, damn it. You're out there trudging, making your way in the snow. Mark, Trump is in. He is now the president of the United States. I guess let's start at the very beginning. What's your take so far? I mean, he came out filling out all of these executive orders, one after the next, after the next, after the next. He had a clear idea in mind of what he wanted to do before he got in office. And, look, from my point of view, clearly I'm on the left of the political spectrum, at the very least, the economic left. And I accept it. I just kind of accept it. There are going to be some pretty horrible things from my point of view that Trump is going to do during this term. I just want to stop the wars. If nothing else, I have very low ideas of what I want out of Trump. Has anything bubbled up so far that has hit your economic radar as either being egregious or either being a good idea?
Yeah, maybe I'll take 30 seconds. I think it's important when people are on shows or when you're being interviewed to kind of confess your biases a little bit. I'm kind of on the libertarian side. Call myself libertarian light, or like I like to say, I'm recovering libertarian,
Totally.
I was not on the Trump train at all in 2016. I didn't vote for him. I couldn't vote for Hillary. So I voted for the pothead, Hey, that's what I did. And then, to paraphrase that classic movie, Dr. Strangelove, how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb. My evolution with Donald Trump has been how I've learned to stop worrying and love Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, do I really love him? I don't know. But when I compare I don't see how you can do worse than the last administration, even on their own leftist stuff. The leftists really didn't like it either. I mean, he didn't execute on anything, and he didn't make very many people happy at all, at least the folks I talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I think has changed a lot is expectations, just kind of like what you were talking earlier about. People realize there's a new sheriff in town and there's going to be some change. Well, one thing I know is I'm not going to like everything Donald Trump does. I can already tell. Some things are going to offend my, libertarian sensibilities, so to speak. I do like the fact that he pardoned the guy from the Silk Road. What's his name?
Ulrich?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Because he had life, right? They gave that guy life in prison.
No, 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
Jesus.
So, yeah, and it was definitely harsh. I probably would have commuted the sentence or something, but it was a full pardon. Nevertheless, that made libertarian circles happy and stuff like that. What I noticed as a consultant, because I'm out and about, I'm out and about in the Atlanta, greater Atlanta area, and I'm dealing with everybody from Democrats to, politically agnostics to Republicans to libertarians, progressives, all sorts of stuff, people that have businesses, because, I'm a small consulting company, so I don't have clients like CNN, and Coke and stuff like that. I have regional size clients and, small businesses.
Yeah.
So everybody, even the Democrats, now they would not want me to name them, or they're not going to go on, X and state it, but they're actually happy now that it's over that Harris lost, because
Right.
even they were like, okay, it's getting stupid. Things are getting stupid. Plus, with the additional information that came out, that campaign was managed so bad. I actually took a whole day and tried to research it and see if any other campaign did anything like that, like paying people to interview them. And,
Yeah, that was super
it's
weird.
weird,
Yeah,
And
that was
Trump
super
didn't
weird.
spend very much money. I mean, I think they spent like 300 million.
Yep, $400 million.
Now it looks like
Harris
they
spent
spent
1.5 billion.
1.5 direct,
Yeah.
and that's not including the PAC money.
Nope.
So, and if that's how she's going to manage the country, the way that campaign was managed, it was just, she got no bang for her buck.
Mm-mm.
I was just, I'm trying to decompose it like you are, like everybody else is. Like, how can, these are not stupid people. Let's not talk and just nonsense. They're not stupid people, but something led them down a stupid road.
Yeah.
Why they thought putting Liz Cheney on a pedestal was going to make people just like, one podcaster put it like, Liz's brat didn't really appeal to Gen Z,
Yeah. I mean,
like,
like, this is a Democrat, no less, hugging Liz Cheney. Like, that's so weird. It's so bizarre. And they defended her doing that. And it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. Who do you think you're appealing to with Liz Cheney?
right.
It's the most bizarre thing in the world that they ran with. I'm sorry, Mark, please.
Well, no. And then right afterwards, I wonder if there is like a little master database that they have, and they send the talking points to everyone, because everyone after the election, after they lost, it was like, well, the problem is the left needs a Joe Rogan. The left needs an Elon Musk. And I'm literally pulling my hair out, yelling at the TV. And I'm like, you had a Joe Rogan, you had an Elon Musk, you ran
They
them
were
on.
Joe Rogan and it was Elon Musk, right? They were Democrats.
You just need to go on Joe Rogan. You don't need one. You had one, actually. And and that's how I felt. I've always been closer to the Democrats than I have the Republicans, always. Just because on certain libertarianish civil rights issues, I'm almost absolutist in certain things. And the Democrats used to be the fun party. Now, I don't know. I mean, you got Democrat friends. Now, I forgot where I heard it, but somebody said something like, if you disagree with Republicans by 50%, they generally concentrate on the 50% that you agree with. But if you're with some of these people and you agree on 50%, you're evil, because you're 50% polluted,
I mean, think of like what they say about Joe Rogan.
And I don't understand it.
They called Joe Rogan the devil. That was the reason that Kamala Harris didn't even go on the show, because she was like, oh, well, Joe Rogan, he's canceled based on our circles. Okay, Joe Rogan voted for Bernie Sanders. Like how are you, like, it's almost as if they fundamentally misunderstand that people will have all sorts of points of view. And some of those points of view are going to be to the right. Some of those points of view are going to be further to the left. Some are going to be somewhere in between. That's just a person. Like, most people aren't this kind of ideologically contorted where they need to fall in line with everything. So it's like, should trans kids be able to have trans surgeries, or should kids be able to have surgeries where you lop off their body parts? Okay, well, most Americans will say that's outrageous.
And without parental permission.
And without parental permission in some cases. Most parents
will say, like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's insane. But a Democrat would say, well, that's racist. That's
why would they pick that hill to die on? I mean, it's not like they figured out, oh, this isn't popular, and they backtrack. They dug in their heels. It's
weird. Or they would say, well, trans women are women. And it's like, no. It's like I get it, man. Like, I don't want to be brutal, right? I have kidney failure. I've ever since I was 17, I had renal failure. Right, my kidneys didn't work. I can't say, well, my kidneys do work. and then have everybody to tell me that my kidneys work.
Right.
And then I die because I don't have kidneys.
There are
Right?
objective truths in the universe.
There
Yeah.
are objective truths in the
Not
universe.
many, but there are some. Yeah.
We're just stuck with it, right? Like you have an XY chromosome. It is what it is, what it is. You feeling that that's not the case doesn't really make that the case. But for Democrats, they would say, well, that's transphobic. And it's like you're out of your mind. Most people are not this ideologically wed, where they are down in I will fight for the trans community through and through. But if you're asking me to go into my mind, and in my mind, I must take a point of view, or otherwise I'm transphobic, I'm going to say, yeah, out of your mind. And that's what they're dealing with. And so when the American public looks at the party, they say, okay, what happened to this party? There's something wrong. They don't see it, though.
Well, right. I would defend to my last breath, if you want to identify as a woman,
yes,
if that's your choice as an adult, I will defend your right to go do that.
Agreed.
Now, if what you're going to say is I have to agree you're a woman when I know for a fact you're not,
you lose me.
No, I'm not going to do that. Now, if you want me to call you Jane, I'll do
Zero
it.
issue with that. Zero issue.
Even if you have a particular pronoun, if I screw it up a couple times and you correct me, then I'll do that. But if you want to get all militant and start acting like you have this entitlement to a non-truth, that's where I part company, because science to me is sacred. And if there's anything I hate about what's been going on in politics, is the science has just been decimated in terms of the scientific method. Science, in one word, is skepticism. Everything is skeptical. For instance, gravity is a theory, and it breaks down at the quantum level.
False viability.
Exactly. And if you don't have that, then if you pollute your science with ideology, and then you circumvent the scientific method, which is designed to not allow that, or at least to mitigate it, then you've destroyed science. It's like when Fauci said, I am science. I almost threw something at the TV when I heard that. I was watching that live, and I'm like,
did he say that
like
for real?
WTF? I'm like, what?
Fauci said that for real? I am science?
Yeah, he said that. Check it out on YouTube. You can probably just type it out. Fauci, I am science. He said it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because
somebody was criticizing him. Well, some of the science doesn't agree with you. And he goes, I am science.
That's astonishing. That's astonishing. I mean, Fauci was the guy, when they showed the information behind the scenes, and there was a question about whether or not this came out of a lab or whether this came out of a market. And Fauci, without knowing what was true, effectively was like, well, we're not going to say it came out of a lab. It came out of a market. And when people was like, well, wait a minute, we don't know if that's true. Well, all of those people were effectively shouted down. If you remember, for the longest time, you cannot say that it came out of a lab.
Yes.
And then there was a report, I believe it was not Popular Mechanics. It was the Atomic Scientists came out. And the Atomic Scientists pointed out, we have no idea where this came from. And it's like, okay, so thank you.
Really? No idea at all?
Atomic Scientists pointed out that, this notion that it came out of a wet market, we don't know that as a flat fact. And not as a flat fact. It could very well have come out of a lab. That was the way they explained it. And
it might have come out of a lab that we know for a fact was doing gain of function research.
Yes. That Fauci, to his dying day, would not own up to the fact that they were doing. And Rand Paul ate him alive on this, because they were clearly doing gain of function, and Fauci didn't want to own up to the fact that they were doing it. I guess that's my issue with him saying, I am science, because he's trying to make himself unimpeachable, which is nonsense.
Which is anti-science, because it's an appeal to authority. It's like on Twitter or X, anything happens. A carbon fiber submarine crashes, and I'm a carpenter, and therefore, everybody seems to want to, tout their credentials, which doesn't mean that much. I mean, how many carbon fiber submarines have you built? Probably zero,
Right.
And it's stuff like that. But what I do see happening is greater business confidence. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm a good bellwether, because I don't have Fortune 500 clients. I have clients that have, like, for instance, one of my clients has 35 fast food restaurants. So he's
Okay.
dealing with all of the labor issues. He's dealing with the cost of ingredients, rent increases, things like that. So he's having to deal with that. And business confidence is growing, and I know it because 4 years ago, 80% of my new business was people calling and saying, "How high can I raise my prices without losing too much business?" That was almost exclusively, that was the phone calls that were coming in, just through referrals and stuff like that. Now we're thinking of expanding, and the bank is looking for a business plan. And can you help us do the ROI analysis and stuff like that?
Interesting.
And so that tells me that from the bottom up, there's a wellspring of, it's almost like a secret memo was sent out to small business saying, now's the time to be entrepreneurial. And so I think the Trump effect, even before he got elected, is true. And I think that has had a positive effect, because without small business, that's where most of the jobs are anyway.
Right.
And so I think that's a positive thing. You asked me, is there anything going on that I'm a little concerned about? I don't know, the devil is in the details, but tariffs can be very useful, and they can be disastrous, and it's all about the execution. So,
Yes, sir.
I do not believe you can fund a country with the welfare state on just tariffs. If you want a welfare state, and there's strong arguments for it, you have to tax incomes and you have to tax wealth. Now, here's the question. How do you tax incomes and wealth so that you don't shrink the size of the pie? It doesn't do any good to raise tax rates if the whole pie shrinks and you actually have less tax revenues than you otherwise would have. It's the classic Laffer curve, right? And so it's all about the execution. Are there things that we can do from a tariff perspective that would make sense, that are unilateral, that we're just going to say as a matter of national policy, we're going to have this group of countries, we're going to have not perfect, but we're going to have strong free trade with, and these countries we're not going to have so much, and these countries we're not going to trade with at all. That could be sensible. Also, what products are you going to tax? If you tax, I don't want to get technical because everybody listening isn't an economist, but if you put tariffs on goods that have to be imported, meaning they're not even made here, that are inelastic, meaning people are going to buy them pretty much regardless of their price,
like toilet paper,
or insulin,
or insulin,
something that people just are going to buy, at least in the short term. They're going to buy regardless. Gasoline, natural gas. When it's cold, you're going to pay $200, for your electric or gas bill, as opposed to $100, because you don't want to freeze to death. Now later you can retool, you can change from this to that, but in the short term, any tariff on a highly inelastic good is essentially a tax on the domestic citizens. And I'm not sure that's the heart of what the Trump administration is trying to do. My impression of what Trump has done is he's destroyed the Republican Party and turned it from a conservative party into a larger tent populist party. Let's call it national populist. Populism with some patriotism, in it. Ironically, I'm going to get hate mail if I don't choose my words correctly. Not as far, but similar to what Russia is. Russia is a highly patriotic society, and they don't like being criticized by other countries. Americans don't like being criticized, by other countries. And so I think the populism that is growing up is a good thing. I think that there's talk about the working class. And I'll just tell you right now, as a capitalist, if you let capitalism get to the point where all you have is a Gini coefficient of near zero, you're not going to have capitalism very long. You're not even going to have a government very long.
Yeah.
On the other side of the coin, if you make it so egalitarian that you've quenched out all forms of merit, all differentiation with regards to merit,
Not gonna have a country either.
no, you're not going to have. You're going to have a stagnant country that the rule of thumb is we're going to have tomorrow what we had today. It's going to be a stagnant economy. And I'm very much an Aristotelian. I believe in balance in most things. Very few things do you want unlimited quantities of, even courage. I mean, if you have too much courage, you're reckless, right?
Yeah.
If you have too much generosity, you're homeless. I mean, there's a balance in life, and I hope that the administration remembers that. But right now, based on what I've seen and what I've consumed and what I've seen them doing, I'm bullish, and I feel good about most of the things that I see coming out. I'm a little concerned about the Middle East. One of the reasons I voted, it wasn't like my only issue. One of the reasons I voted for Trump was I want both these wars to just stop.
Agreed.
I want them to stop.
Agreed.
And the only way to do that I can tell, that I can see, if I was president, I would make it clear to Ukraine and Russia, this ends now. Take your borders, take what you got, walk away. And I would tell Israel, okay, you've made your point. Stop it. And if you don't stop it, there will be a high price to pay.
Yeah.
And here's the difference. If Trump says that, they're going to believe him. Nobody respected Biden. Let's just call it what it is. I didn't respect him. You didn't respect him. And certainly foreign leaders didn't respect him. Trump, even the people that hate him, respect him. What's their names? Joe Scarborough and
Mika
did a holy pilgrimage to Florida to kiss the ring after literally calling him Hitler for never how many years. So, and that's been going on and on again. Did you catch it was just out last night. Did you catch some journalists caught Larry Finkel from BlackRock?
No, I haven't seen this one.
He had his two goons with him, and the goons were like elbowing, trying to, they weren't assaulting journalists, but they were being, Larry Finkel pulls his phone out, takes a snapshot of their face. Journalists are like, are you trying to intimidate me? Are you threatening to kill me? Like maybe you did Donald Trump, and what I took away from that is I think that's the first time that guy has ever had to deal with unscripted questions.
Yeah.
Because they followed him. He had to walk a long way. It's Switzerland. You've been to Switzerland, right? And he walked a long way to the Hard Rock Cafe, and they followed him, and he would go across the street and come back across the street trying to dodge them, and they just stood there and asked him. I bet they asked him 40 questions. And it became clear he was angry that they would even
have the temerity to question him about.
Yes, exactly, or even be in his presence or something. And he was, I mean, I had seen him in interviews before, and I never really liked him that much before. But after that video, it's not flattering at all. I mean, at all. Try to go watch that.
I would check that out.
I'll send you a link.
Thank you. Yeah.
When we're done.
That's amazing.
So, I think things are going to be better. That's one thing I'm 99.9% confident things are going to be better. I think they're going to be better on the international front. I think one thing I do like about Trump is I do think he gets that war is costly.
He said that.
And I think he wants to avoid it if he at all possibly can. I think he's going to get, if you look at Trump's history, he likes to talk a lot of smack. And then he moderates
he backs away.
What he actually wants to do after he digs into it and gets more information.
Mhm.
It's like the declassifying,
JFK files.
the JFK. He said he would do it within 5 minutes after he takes office. Well, now he's saying, well, it's proven to be a little more difficult. And I get that. Sometimes you get in and things become a little more complicated.
Mark, he was already president. He was already president. And he
On the
promised
other side of the coin, he has been known for fulfilling his campaign promises. So I think he will do it. What my point is, he likes to stir up stuff. He likes to talk smack, and then he moderates a little bit. So he got elected because of really, in my view, three things: the border, inflation, and wokeness. And let's be more specific, unbridled wokeness, because some of the so-called woke stuff I actually agree with.
Yeah.
But it was so overshadowed by the insanity, nobody even gives it any, it's just that word is tarnished forever. It's just nobody, it's suddenly funny on January 21st, there was like 80% less woke people. It's just bizarre. Corporation after corporation. Georgia Tech got rid of it. Reinhardt University got rid of it. It changed everything. It's amazing what happens when you win. It's just amazing to me. It just absolutely amazes me how the entire game changes once you win.
Yeah.
And Trump came in, and you have to give him credit. He didn't just win. It's the biggest political comeback in. I mean, I think you have to go back to Napoleon, who was exiled.
He
What was it? The Isle of Patmos or something, and he came back and did it again. I'm not familiar with anything quite like that and they threw everything at him. I mean, everything. The deep state went at him.
Shot him.
They
literally shot him. Yeah.
They did lawfare on him. Lawsuits. New York went back and changed the statute of limitations so that freak that sued him for not sexual assault, but whatever it was called.
I know what you mean.
Pushing her against a wall. And she even said, no, he didn't rape me. He didn't touch me. He was just creepy. And then she started talking about how she was going to spend her money and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they threw everything at him that they possibly could. They impeached him twice. I mean, normal people would be dead in the water, but you got to give the guy credit. He just stood in there and punched and punched and punched and punched back. And I think people respect that. Now, some people might find that frightening, but nevertheless, I think you respect it. I think our allies and enemies overseas respect it. I think everybody sees there's a new sheriff in town. And right now I'm bullish. I think Trump wants to think about one thing primarily: the economy. It's the economy, stupid.
Mark.
And whether you want to admit it or not, the most fragile people of our society are impacted very negatively by unbridled immigration, or let's say unbridled illegal immigration. Even the H-1B thing that got all nasty for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are a dishwasher and that's what you do, it's a lower skilled job. If you let millions of unskilled people in, it's just supply and demand, right? Just the law of supply and demand. That's going to lower
the wages,
the worth that you are to a potential employer. If you pass minimum wage laws, there's just going to be a technical rate of substitution from labor into capital, and that hurts workers as well. And so I do think, here's what I'm saying. I hope Trump, now that he's elected, he can't run again, doesn't forget that he won in part because of his populist message. And if he doesn't forget that, I think he'll go down as a great president, because what he's doing right now is smart. I like the fact that he's going to drill and have, open that up. Everything we do in our world involves petroleum. Even if you are so green, you think you're exempt from it, you're not. The food you eat uses petroleum. The containers that you put your food in uses petroleum.
Yeah.
The pharmaceuticals that
Yeah,
you
the pills.
use petroleum. Everything uses petroleum, and guess what? The United States is literally blessed or fortunate, depending on how you view your words. We have the largest known reserves of natural gas and fossil fuels in the whole world. And if you throw in Canada and Mexico, North America is
Rich, very rich.
very rich in that. And now that we've been able to think it out, electric cars aren't that green if you're just going to, charge the batteries up with coal burning, plants or gas burning plants and all that kind of a thing.
Mark, I'm going to have to close this because I have another guess, but
Sure.
I would say from your mouth to God's ears. I don't know if I'm going to say I'm bullish. My expectations have been deadened to such a degree that I have two objectives: stop the wars. Those are my main two. It's like stop the wars. I have accepted that I am not going to be a fan of this. Meaning anything that happens that I like is gravy on top. So I'll say it that way. My man, thank you for this, Mark.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Man. Thank you for this. Mark Frost. He's an economist, professor, consultant, drummer, Eagle Scout, Marine capitalist, Schumpeterian, a recovering libertarian. You can follow Mark on Twitter at FrostyCash. Definitely check him out. Yes, trends to the right, but sane. Very sane. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Mark. I always appreciate you, man. Thank you for this.
Always.
All right. I would like to bring in my next guest. Richard hasn't been on the show for a while, so it's good to have him back. I'm going to wait till he